Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Gutsy podcast. Brilliant to be back again. Thanks to everybody who's watching, commenting. Loads of inspirational stuff coming through as always. And just keep the messages coming, to be honest with you, because it's good to know that you're getting something out of our fabulous guests. So please check that out. Also, please check out the new Catherine McEwen Foundation website, catherinemcEwenfoundation.com. We've been working hard in the background on that. Got our lovely new brand out there, so you'll see that develop over the coming weeks and months. So thanks to all the kind words on that as well. It's been fantastic. Really, if I'm honest, really excited about today. We've got brilliant lad, a Dundonian. I don't know if we've had a Dundonian on before. Well, born and bred. What a background professionally, and what a story in inflammatory bowel disease as well. Started his career off at DC Thomson. Famous for Dundee, obviously, and it's certain accolades that some of you may recognise. Professionally, been at Rangers, Spurs under Sir Alan Sugar, London nightclub owner, chief exec at Hearts, Dundee. The list goes on. And welcome to Gutsy, Scot Gardiner. How are you doing, mate?
Brand new. Great to be here. Great to finally meet you face to face. Haven't had phone calls and texts. And
aye. It's pretty disappointing in real life, really, wasn't it?
I wasn't sure what brand I was going to get on your T-shirt. There's been that many.
You did mention that. Well, I feel as if it's a variety. I'll have to say this is a new brand that we just launched a couple of weeks ago.
Correct.
So we've yet to do a run. However, you will be amongst the first to be gifted one.
Yes, branding's my thing. Getting sponsors on jerseys and all that sort of stuff. I'm an anorak for branding.
Well, we do like people who can introduce sponsors, but we'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. So, what's happening? What's happening today, Scott? Where have You've been about the country a fair bit recently. We've got several mutual friends. In fact, I think it's quite incredible that we've not met before.
It is, and as I say, once we realised we had crossovers, then all of a sudden you start meeting other people and you start speaking to other people, saying, "No, Derek," and the guys at the studio. So it is a small world in Scotland, I think.
Yes, sometimes that is a good thing and sometimes no so good, but on this occasion it absolutely is.
Yes.
I know that I was speaking to the legend Alex McLeish at our Red Hot Ball a couple of weeks ago, which sadly you couldn't make because you had an event on yourself the night. I think it was the night before, wasn't it?
Night before, yes.
The night before, and he spoke really, really highly of that event. He said it was great, and Rangers historian David Mason was at it as well as Bomber Brown. Is that right?
Yes. They're quite a handful, the three of them. There'd be a decent back three probably.
Aye.
They were a handful on the night.
But a bad take that tribute.
Yeah, they're good fun, and we've worked with them all before in different guises, so that it was great. And then we didn't realise until I spoke to you and you said, actually Alex is an ambassador, and then all of a sudden there was crossovers, and then last Saturday ended up with Alex again. He came back up for a funeral that we were sadly both at on Saturday morning. Then we were speaking again, and so it's just it's a very small world in Scotland, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think that the 6 steps of Kevin Bacon, I think it's 2 in Scotland. I think there's 2 steps. I think you don't need 6 steps to be connected to somebody. I think 2.5 at worst kind of thing.
Oh, well, Alex been an ambassador for a number of years. Great, great friends at the family. Very, very much so. God, it was a long time ago. It seems like yesterday, because we helped a little bit with his son John. For anybody that's not aware, Alex, two sons, John and Jamie, both living with inflammatory bowel disease, and we helped a little bit about a fantastic event that the guys were putting together in Manchester a number of years ago, that Dan Fletcher was involved in as well. So it was it was quite an event. Seems like yesterday, but it was maybe about 13, 14, 15 years ago, maybe something like that. Long time ago.
Because if Darren,
I don't think I had grey hair. Don't think so.
No, and Darren to me is one of the, the fact that he's Scottish is one thing, but to me he's one of the massive standouts of the community that has unfortunately inflicted with us, because what he did in his career and what he continued to do and awareness to me was just off the charts, and he was kind of one of the first that I knew about. And as a player, when he was, in the throes of flare-ups, he was performing for Scotland for Champions League semi-finals. I mean, to me, he's just amazing. Just amazing.
I would absolutely agree with that, because rightly or wrongly, how I remember the kind of the story of that, because phenomenal engine, phenomenal foot. I mean, the way that take everything else, take inflammatory bowel disease aside, and colitis, I'm sure, Darren, because I know that John McLeish helped him, because they had a very, very similar journey, the two guys, and but there was a point where you would say, like, he's not played for a wee while, and you never knew that, and then it's like rumour mills. Oh, he's got some condition, he's this and that. But he would, the nature of him as a football player, and that engine and that aggression and all over the park that he covered. And then when you actually find out what was going on, and you especially would know how debilitating this is, and to perform at that level, the peak level of sport, elite sport, and he was performing. And without going into jumping into football details too much, I was at a game, Arsenal against Manchester United, the semi-final of the Champions League in 2008-2009, and United were, and I'm no fan of either club, but I was at the game in London, and United were 1-0 up from the first leg, and the second leg at Arsenal, Darren Fletcher just put on the most magnificent performance I think I've ever seen from a Scottish midfielder, and include the great names in that. He was just off the charts good, bossed the match. Tragically gets sent off at the end, towards the end, which meant he missed the final. United won 3-1. Ronaldo and Rooney were amazing, but Fletcher, and he was in the middle of everything, and Darren Fletcher then, that night, was just the best performance I've ever seen from a midfielder, and came out raving about it. And at that time, I didn't know what he had, but later on, discovered that everything. And I was going, that night, that was a masterclass, like a maestro. Had he been Italian, had he been Brazilian, people would have been saying that was a typical masterclass from a player who just bossed the entire game against a very good Arsenal team. Struggle to say that name sometimes, but against a really good Arsenal team, and Fletcher was amazing. So since I knew about him and everything else, I have nothing but massive regard for him as a person and as a human, for how he got through all of that. And having spoken to Scotland managers who had him in the squad and what happened and heard things, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing, and I would say I've used them in my head as, not like a what would Jesus do, as in a what would Darren do, but I've had things and went, well, Darren Fletcher did that, so I can get past this. Yeah, because he was just amazing to me. Yeah, I never met him. Noticed that I've never. People have said, "Oh, you must phone him," and here's his number, and I've never. But inspiration, I think. I would 1,000,000% agree with that. Just kind of knowing a little bit of the story, and then just to see, performing, as you quite rightly say, at elite level in sport. It's just nothing short of miraculous. It's miraculous to perform at that level no matter what. But when you're fighting that, just incredible. So not a bad, not a bad person to take inspiration from, to say the least. And you know what? In general, fantastic role model. For anybody. But I think certainly within the inflammatory bowel disease community, he's absolutely held up there. It'll be held up even higher if he came on Gutsy, to be honest with you. But anyway, we can live in hope.
Yeah, we need to work on that jointly.
Yeah, we absolutely do. So Scott, I mean, that probably brings us quite nicely into kind of understanding a little bit about your story and you know, and how that fits in, you know, because you've performed at, you know, the highest levels professionally. But if we take it back and learn a little bit more about your story with inflammatory bowel disease, I mean, you mentioned earlier on that you probably, with pre-diagnosis, probably had it for a number of years when you think back. Mm-hmm. So talk us through that a little, if you will.
I just not being flippant about it, but I think I used to take Imodium like they were sweeties.
Yeah.
And never having been diagnosed with anything. I took Imodium. If I had, you know, bought a share in Apple every time I took an Imodium, I'd be a billionaire now, because I must have over 10 years had, you know, I was taking Imodium all the time. And never thinking, is there something here? I've been a vegetarian almost all my life, best part of 50 years. So I was maybe 12 when I was started being vegetarian. So I've been like strict vegetarian my entire life.
If you don't mind me asking, was there a specific reason for that?
Or? I think there was probably I never liked the taste of meat and stuff like that, really, and so that would have been one thing. But there was definitely kind of moral or ethical stuff, because I was a member of Greenpeace and everything when I was in my early teens, and and I was heavily interested in Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, all the primatologists. So I was into animals and everything very early on in life, and I was an activist with Greenpeace back in the day, and so there must have been some element of ethical rather than just I don't like the taste of that. And then after that, once it became a thing, and it wasn't a thing then, there was no such thing as corn, there was no Linda McCartney stuff, there was
great sausages.
Bought them this morning, but there wasn't anything like that then, so it was difficult. It wasn't easy, especially in Dundee. You know, we weren't.
Were you the only vegetarian in Dundee?
Probably felt like it.
I was laughing. I seen a clip. I seen a clip, and it was Kevin Bridges, and he was on. It was on. Is it Romish? Oh, I can't pronounce his second name. That's terrible. Ranganathan, I think that's his second name.
Yes, Ranganathan.
Is that right, Ranganathan? I don't know too bad. It was on his podcast the other day, and they were talking about being vegan, and he was saying how Romish totally inspired him, because Romish was vegan, and he was saying, I mean, I must have been vegan when I was a kid, because you were just eating a big bit of chips and a bit of vegetable pakora. I ate chips like 3 times a day when I was at school. He was leading the way.
Dundee wasn't easy, for sure. As I say, there wasn't such a thing. I remember phoning ahead to an event we were going to and saying, you know, it was a burn supper, in fact, so there was no vegetarian haggis then. I said, look, I'm a vegetarian, and he said, that's all right. And when I got there, they gave me a cold meat salad. And I said,
a cold meat salad?
Get meat in it. They went, it's a salad. And I said, aye, but it's got meat in it. And they said, are you one of the fussy vegetarians? I was like, well, no, not really. Just no meat.
You probably know, Leslie, like my friend Linda's got Irish family. So she's going over to visit them in Ireland. I think we'll get her story right. And she's going over, she's remember I'm vegetarian. So she, oh no, we're making a lovely soup. We're making a lovely soup. Ah, right, oh, brilliant. So she goes over, she's in her auntie's kitchen, right? And the auntie's pulling out the ham hock for the soup. Mm-hmm. And she says, well, I'm vegetarian. She says, I'm taking it out, but.
Yeah. I had that as well at Carnoustie 5-star hotel. You know, they said, that's your soup and that's everybody else's. And I said, it looks the same. And they said, we've picked the ham out of your soup. So and that was a 5-star hotel, you know. So back in those days, it was not. It wasn't seen as a thing, and of course that would come back later on in life, in relation to diet and everything else relating to the condition. But no, it wasn't. So it wasn't straightforward. But that was life in Dundee then. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're going through it. You're just getting, and I think this is quite an important thing, because I mean, it probably harken back a few years. Crohn's Colitis UK did a really, really strong campaign about diagnosis and getting yourself checked out, and you know they absolutely drove. And you know, we backed it as a charity at Catherine McCune Foundation as well, because it was a great piece of work. You know, people that maybe had symptoms that they weren't really dealing with, but they were just getting on with it. And it sounds as if you were pretty much doing that, you know, and self-medicating with the Imodium and what have you. And, you know, and so many do that. So they had a real drive, and they got a lot of people diagnosed and got, you know, they just thought, I've got a dodgy guts or whatever every now and again. And we're just kind of getting on with it because the symptoms hadn't got to the point where it was tough, or got anyway serious. But you were definitely, it sounds as if you were definitely doing that. And I mean, that campaign got so many people diagnosed. So it was really good quality.
It's an interesting thing, because I think had I known, I had no idea what that was.
No.
You know, I had no idea what that was. And so I just would think maybe it was something I'd had to eat.
Yeah.
You know, especially in London, we were living high on the hog. It was stressful. We were running different businesses, as I say, for two and a half years, almost 3 years, a nightclub. So you'd be working on one business during the day, then you'd be going to night, go home, have dinner, have a shower, get dressed, go to the nightclub. I would be coming in at 7 a.m. when my wife was leaving to go to the other business. And I think had there been campaigns or I'd have read something, someone might have clicked.
You might have recognised
Someone
that.
Might have clicked in my head.
Yeah, so what year are we talking about there, Scott? About
2008, 9, 10.
Right, so the internet's in full swing. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But even then, even if
you don't look.
Yeah, but even the thing is, if you cast your mind back, I mean, social media is about, definitely. But it's not nowhere near
much.
where it is now.
Not much.
Nowhere near where it is now.
There was no, I don't think it was Twitter then. There might have been Facebook.
But arguably there's none now.
Well, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But no, so I think campaigns are crucial, but it's a chicken and an egg. It's a chicken and an egg, and who sees it, and when do they see it, and how do they see it? Yeah,
and I think back then, even though certainly the digital age is in full swing from an internet perspective, social media is in its infancy, nowhere near what it is now. But even looking back then, I think if you're talking 2008, even I founded the foundation 2003, so just kind of learning the ropes. Well, arguably absolutely still am every day, but the awareness wasn't there. No way was it there.
No, when I joined Rangers in about 95 and to 2000. I was doing stuff for Rangers before then, between 92 and 95, but full time 95 as a sales manager, and you were flying everywhere. We were in the Champions League. We were, we were group stage, automatic group stage at that time. Yeah. And
West those days.
Yes, the faraway days when Scotland had a standing in the some stand in the game, or there was less teams, a lot more teams now, and at that time, you had, as I say, I definitely was dealing with things. But you were just dealing with it as in there was an upset stomach, or it was an upset stomach a lot.
Even when you're kind of, and you're in London, at one point you're at Spurs. Were you at Spurs after Rangers?
Yes, yeah. I went from Rangers to directly to Spurs.
To London to Spurs. So you're kind of day to day, you've got the symptoms, but you don't realise the symptoms, but you're just kind of, you're you're getting on with it, but you've got all these pressures that kind of.
Yeah, well, you knew if you didn't eat, then you might not get ill.
Yeah.
So there was if you didn't drink certain things, then you might not get ill. If you didn't eat certain types of food, you might not get ill. Yeah. But I wasn't thinking that I was ill. In no stage was I thinking I was ill. I was just thinking maybe it's because I'm vegetarian, maybe because it's. Yeah. But I also think I'm from the northeast of Scotland, and I think there is a. Maybe not now, but certainly then, and knowing my brother, I've got a younger brother, and you just deal with things and you just compartmentalise them and you just park them at the back of your head and you think, well, I've no time to worry about this, I've no time to deal with this, so I've got things to do. Yeah. And I'm not going to face it, or you might be not thinking I'm not going to face it, but in your subconscious, you're not going looking for issues. You just need to deal with something to get to there. And London, even Glasgow, Rangers was not chaotic, but very, very busy then. You were winning all the time. There was always things going on. There was huge commercial pressures. It was all relative, but there's huge commercial pressures. So you're busy all the time and you're just dealing with things. I think you're dealing with things. You're dealing with life and you're dealing with things. Yeah.
The thing with that is as well, I think you've kind of touched on something that's a very Scottish thing, I think. It's a very male thing as well, you know, and they say like, I'm getting on with it. Yep. You know, that, you know, a phrase that I've come to dislike a bit, to be honest with you, that man up. And it's like you're getting on with it because there's a job to do and you're absolutely neglecting yourself. But what happens in that process is that your normal's changing because you're battling. You don't know, you maybe not realising you're battling at this point, but you're kind of going through this and your level's different. You know, you're kind of that point where you're changing your normal every day because what you're battling. And then when I would imagine that at one point when you actually you realise that was far from normal. Yeah, you know, your normal's changing through that.
I think looking back, you see it. As well.
Totally.
You're less noticing it at the time. There is a level of man up. I never go off sick. No matter what. You know, I'm not sheer bloody minded. You know, I'm not sick. I'm not having it. Even when you are. Yeah. I'm not having it.
Totally.
And at that time, and in London, as I said, you're flying around, and massively stressful things happening, which we now know. Yeah, you know, totally. Certainly, football is not a career to be in if you have this, or you wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, but it's a difficult place to hide.
Yeah, but once you're in it, that's the case. And we you know, we had events. You know, we had a sort of events production fixing company, so I would be working with movie premieres for Universal Movies or Paramount, or flying people in private jets around the world, and the jets not turning up, or somebody not turning up, or the tickets for the Oscars not being there when they needed, or the tickets for.
I hate it when my tickets don't arrive.
Exactly.
Every year, Scott.
Happens in Dundee all the time. But once you were down there, but these were all super stressful things, and you just had to deal with it. And we know now that these were not conducive situations to this. So you were just dealing with it. And as I say, looking back, it is you know, even football. I've worked in the football world, and how IBD or colitis and everything affects you. I've worked in the football world and I've worked in the real world, and that's how I kind of see it. Yeah, did stuff in Formula One, did stuff in football, but the football, the stress of, especially if you're in a senior position or if you're chief executive or chief operating officer or whatever, you know, your entire life depends on what these 11 guys do on Saturday. And it's a completely anomalous business. It's an anomalous business. And it's anomalous in that, you with the foundation, you'll have had a ton of stuff to do this week, and you'll have had tasks that you needed to do and things you want to move the ball forward. Using the football analogy, I always come at the end of the week and think, have we moved the ball forward
absolutely.
in any way, or have we gone back the way? So if you moved it forward, and then the situation with football is, depending on what happens on Saturday, the phones might just stop on Monday because if you lose a game and it was really important, or if it was a derby, or if it was whatever, no one wants to talk to you. So you've a great idea, you've got a great business concept, you've got a great sponsorship opportunity, but if the team loses, you can phone the people are like, don't want to talk to you because the last people you want to speak to is your club who's let you down at the weekend, or your because you're sitting there looking like an opportunity, or maybe you got to sign something with maybe with a sponsor or whatever. So the big games at the weekend, that's your big deal is going to happen during the week, all being well. And if the game goes your way, you're absolutely flying into that. But what a barrier you've got to get over if it's you've got so much riding on. Yeah. Commercially, business-wise, and staff and everything, so much riding on a game. And I remember 9-0 game, Rangers going to play Celtic at Celtic Park, and I can't remember, there was maybe 5 points in it at the time, and Rangers had a whole lot of injuries, and Andy Gorham was injured, and McCoy was injured, or Haitley was in, there was a golf, everybody was injured.
Yeah.
And there was maybe 5 games to go. If Rangers won this game, then they're going to 8 points clear, and they're going to win 9-0. If you don't, and that was the holy grail then, and if you don't, it's 2 points, and Celtic have got the momentum and everything, and you've got a situation. And I remember we had so many business things. I mean, I can't tell you how much merchandise. I mean, hundreds of thousands of pounds of stuff ordered, thinking, and you're holding on to the last minute. Can we go with this? And you've got a chairman who's going, we must maximise this opportunity. And I remember walking up to the game at Celtic Park with Sandy Jardine, who I worked with, and just fantastic guy, and ex-legend of Rangers, but a great guy. And
everybody speaks very, very highly of Sandy.
And I stopped and I said, I can't go in. And I remember holding on the barrier on London Road, and I was just standing there. I said, I can't go in, Sandy. Everything's on. This is it. Everything is on this. I don't think I can watch this. And he said, look, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. I said, we've no team. But it was the pressure of the business side of it. We had so much, coming to you. And David Murray was not, he was amiable chap sometimes, but, when the pressure was on, he could turn the screws. And I said, we just have so much. And that wasn't normal in business, so depending on what happened that day.
Yeah, boom or bust.
It was boom or bust, and it was nothing you could do about it. And I think that thing of it, that there's nothing you could do. You could impact what happens with Catherine McEwen Foundation. Every day of life, you could say, right, I'm going to impact this one.
Arguable, Scott.
I'm giving you that credit right now that you could.
Thanks.
But with football, you can't.
Yeah, but
that brings, I think, levels of stress that are fun. By the way, they're enjoyable in some ways, right? But sometimes, and that has to affect you physiologically.
The dopamine.
Yes. And the game, it was 1-0. Laudrup scored, as he did, and the rest was kind of history, and got absolutely battered that day and won 1.
I remember it.
And won 1-0. But all of these things, I feel now later on, these must have been chipping away at you physiologically.
Yeah, it makes sense.
In my head is how I have that kind of equation.
No, and I think it makes sense. I know that having in some way, shape, or form, and we spoke about this previously in conversation, in some way, shape, or form, in my 50 years on the planet, inflammatory bowel disease has been a part of that for all those 50 years. Now, thankfully, in touch wood, wherever that may be, I don't live with the condition. Hopefully, I never do. But since I was born, my mum had it for till she sadly passed away, And one of the big things, you know, when you know, was stress, where, you know, she was, when we, you know, real life problems, like, you know, putting food on the table and, you know, work and all this kind of stuff that, you know, my mum wasn't able to work most times. But that stress factor, there was a real change in her. Now, this is the point where she's obviously been, my mum was diagnosed when she was 16. So she was, you know, kind of aware of that. You're going through all this and working through something that's no diagnosed at this point. So when were you actually diagnosed then? Well,
it was a bizarre thing because I got very, very ill very quickly in a couple of days. And the long story short was I was living in Edinburgh, in the West End of Edinburgh. I was chief executive of Dundee Football Club. And we were going for, I think we were going for the league. And a long story short was I went to my doctor, and the doctor sent me straight to the hospital. I can't remember if it was the Western, but I get sent straight to the hospital in Edinburgh at night, a Friday night. And the next day we had I think we had a game. It was a friendly, and this is actually genuinely important in relation to how you prioritise things, or you don't prioritise things. It was a friendly to try and get a couple of players back from injury or something. And I was in the hospital, and a specialist, I was in a kind of queue, I was in bed on Friday night. I didn't know if I was going to just get out. They were going to say to me, right, we've done some tests. And And a specialist came to see me, and he said to me, I'm thinking, I'm trying to get you into surgery first thing tomorrow morning, is what he said. I'm trying to rearrange things so that we'll see you at 7:30 tomorrow morning first before we see everybody else. We're trying to rearrange the list of patients that were getting taken in the morning. And I said, I can't. I said, we've got a match. Bear in mind, this is a friendly match to maybe get a couple of players back or something. I said, I can't, we've got a match. And he was so brutal. He said, no problem. He said, just so you know, you either have bowel cancer or you have Crohn's colitis. He said, you 100% have one of them. But listen, if you've got a match, don't worry about it. I'll stop shuffling things and get your stuff off your pop, no problem. And it was like he'd punched me in the face, you know, in the gut and somewhere else at the same time. And I said, right, so I should phone my wife and tell her I'm staying in tonight. And he went, that'd be advisable. But if he hadn't been so brutal to me, it was like, give yourself a shake, son, because he said, you 100% have one of the two of these. Well, what we're going to discover in the morning is what one you have. And that was really first time.
What a reality check.
Yes.
You know, you talk about prioritise. Your priorities lay with the club.
I'm thinking, can we get these bodies back?
Yeah.
It was Gavin Ray or someone had been injured, and there was like, can we get him back? We need him for the run-in to win the league or something. And I can't remember what it was, but it was some sort of friendly.
But in reality, your attendance means nothing in the
nothing at all.
Scale of things.
Nothing at all. But him saying to me, you've either get that or that, was, you know, the minute you say the C word in any case is but, and I didn't know what the other was. I didn't know anything about Crohn's colitis at all. I did not know anything about it. Although I'd been, as I said to you, I've been popping Imodium like Smarties for years.
See when you know, I mean this with the greatest respect. When you look at the history of how you were coping with what was happening with your body, everything else, you know, maybe not everything else, but professionally, you know, all that stuff, you were last in the queue of priorities. You know, you were medicating to get you through, so you could deliver, you know, that commercial deal, you know, the sponsorship, whatever, you know, deliver the commercial packaging, commercial interest after, you know, winning the league and all that kind of stuff. You were last, and every time you were last, you know, you're that wee chip away. You know, we spoke about earlier on. You know,
you were just dealing with something.
Yeah.
And that night they put me in a ward with there was 3 other very elderly gentlemen in the ward.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them were told that night, just behind a curtain, that they had cancer. So I heard them telling them.
Oh my God.
And I'm getting taken at 7:30 in the morning.
With that in the conversation.
Yeah. And I said to him, see, my wife came round to see me and brought some stuff, and I said, well, this is what's happening. And the next day when I woke up, I remember getting wheeled through, because vividly remember getting wheeled through to the surgery in the shed. When I woke up a few hours later, they said, I said, is everything okay? And they said, yeah, the specialist is going to come and see you. And I just wanted to say to someone, just tell me, because it's that or that. And it's bad one way. I've never been so delighted to be here to hear you've got this. It wasn't bowel cancer.
Yeah, totally.
And I was just so happy for them to say I had that, even though I had no idea how serious that was or how that could impact. Or
do you know something? It's actually quite a common thing. We've had quite a high percentage of guests on Gutsy that have been absolutely delighted with their diagnosis. Just so they can give it a name for what's been happening to them and then move on. Plus, a lot of them saying, well, it wasn't a cancer.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that
I remember him, I could see his face. What, just so you know, you have 100%, you have one of these. But if you don't want to do this, don't. He was so angry with me, and that he was rearranging things. And I was like, that was what I needed. I needed exactly what he did.
I like the psychology of what he did, actually.
Yeah. And say, don't worry about it. I'm just rearranging all these different patients to get you seen first, because you've got this. And then I needed that, you know, from him. So that was when, and then it was a case of, right, okay, how do we, you know.
But how do you feel at that point? I know you're delighted, but you're delighted you've not got a bowel cancer diagnosis. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But then it sinks in, right? Okay, I've got inflammatory bowel disease. What's that?
Yeah, well, you read about it. I remember them also saying, the specialist saying to me, you might have to look at your diet, you might have to look at being vegetarian. And I was like, well, I'm 1-0 down then, because I'm already vegetarian. Right. So if that's going to help me, it hasn't helped me. Because I've been vegetarian since I was 12. So I was thinking, right, well, there's nothing we can do there. And then it was just reading lots and reading into what could you do, or what were you going to take?
Yeah.
You know, because you had no idea. You know, I literally went from complete ignorance to, right, I've got this, how does this? Because you never at any stage thought, well, that's going to, you know, obviously you'll give me something now and we'll fix it. And that'll be that. And I know that's happened. A lot of your guests have said that. You think, right, diagnosed, sorted, there you go, that's what you get. You take that and that's you good to go.
Bang in front.
And now we know, you know, what I have, you know, the same drug can have no effect on me whatsoever. The same, but someone else, it's a miracle cure. So I didn't know any of that at that stage.
And sometimes the drug that works will only work for so long.
Yes, only works for a period, or certain things you can have can not agree with you. They might work, but the other effects are not so clever. So it was a case of going, right, fine, give me something, because, you know, we've got a league to win here and we've got players to sign and got sponsors to. It was really kind of that. It was like, right, great, now we know what it is. Because I was like that with players who got an injury. You know, I could see a player. Sometimes I'd be in the dressing room waiting on the player coming in. Right, to the doctor, what has he got? What is it? Is it meniscus? Is it?
Yeah.
Right, will he be back on Tuesday? Will he be back? Right, so you kind of dealt with things like
totally
that.
Get it.
And so I was thinking, well, this is this. That's fine. We'll deal with this, and we'll move on.
Yeah.
And there was no other thoughts other than that. There wasn't thinking, oh, woe is me. or this is terrible. I was just thinking, right, I'll sort this and we'll crack on.
Did you sort it? Then?
To a degree. Yeah, to a degree, because you just had to watch what you ate. There were certain things and you realised, well, that wasn't just disagreeing with me, that was making me ill.
But but you know, you're obviously a super switched on guy, and it's like, it's trial and error to see what works, what doesn't, and then realising, right, okay, you know, the pros and cons of going with some. Was there anything in particular that was working for you and what wasn't?
No, the steroids worked, and it was just things that they said, well, you shouldn't really eat. You know, low FODMAP was coming to the more prevalent then, but you looked at that. But low FODMAP for vegetarian was no good for me, because it was all the things I liked, all the things I ate all the time, all the staples of my diet were high FODMAP just about. You know, there's no day when I don't eat mushrooms or tomatoes, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, no, that's poison. That's poison. Because that's how I was seeing it. I was seeing it as, if that's bad for me, then I'm not going to do that.
Of course.
And I always said, if someone's, even though I was full-blown vegetarian, and to the point of, you know, every jar, I read every single thing.
Yeah.
Well, no jars now, because I don't buy jars of stuff. You try and make everything fresh now. But if someone had said to me, you're going to eat...
Would you grow your own?
I would love to, but we've always had... not be in a situation to do that.
Yeah.
But if somebody said to me, you need to eat, you know, meat from now on, or else, then I'd be like, right, okay, if that's what I need to do, that's what I need to do, or I'll find a way to do it. Although it would be seen like obscene to me to do such a thing. Yeah. My wife's no vegetarian, you know. It doesn't bother me that she's not. I'm not like one of those vegetarians that I'm thinking, there's no French kissing if she's had a steak or that, but I'm no phased about it, you know. Not being vegetarian.
Go brush your teeth for a one chef for that steak.
There's no French kissing if I've peed it off anyway. So, but there's that stuff. You don't. You look at everything, and
anybody that's been together 30 years is a fair amount of that. Then
yes, exactly. Aye. And it's you know that, but with your job and with everything else, you've just got to. That's your life and your livelihood. You've got to crack on. So you've just got to manage the situation. So I did do that to a degree. And
do you feel, if you don't mind me asking, so you know we speak about this often. We've touched on it a little bit. You know, the self-management, and I think we touched on when we spoke about you having priorities and you being quite far. You yourself being quite far down that list of priorities with self-care. Do you think that your professional drive and nature has been to the detriment of your health then, or through your journey?
Probably, but I don't see it the way you framed it there. I don't see it like that. I've not seen it that what's been a priority is whatever's a priority at the time. It was win the league, or do well, or be well, or do good things in other businesses. I don't see it. I've not framed it like that.
Yeah, no.
And I still to this day I haven't framed it that that self-care thing. And I'll say it to other people, you know, without your health, you know, you've not got anything. And I've had terrible situations, lost a member of my family with ulcerative colitis, just a disaster.
Oh, wow.
And
I never realised.
And then seeing you know, there are moments where something strikes you like a lightning bolt, but then again, I'm very good at compartmentalising things and going, right, well, I can't have that there, or else I'll fold.
Right.
If I think about that, I'll fold, and I can't fold because I'm the leader there, and I've got to lead, and I've got to be seen to do this, and I've got to fight the fight, and I've got to. So I think that I don't have that in my head I'm not looking after myself. I'll do that, and I say we'll cook everything fresh, and we'll. So I'll take all the things, but it's more subconscious than conscious. And I'm a wee bit more conscious now, I would say, than I was then.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm massively more. I try and just keep it. That's there. We need to get on here. We need to do this. We need to do this.
Yeah, and I think it's what we're always striving to do as an organisation, and certainly something that we promote on Gutsy is like, your condition should not define you. You can be what you want to be. You can have the career. There might be a different road, due to that, and success is never linear. In anything, whether that's where you're with health or in business or career, but don't let it define you. If it starts to define you and become you, it'll be all encompassing, and that's not healthy.
No, and again, I think it comes back to the Scottish male thing. Because I think I'm driven in anything that I do. I'm all in. I'm all in with everything, and if I'm with you forever. I'll line the road for you. If we ride it down, no matter what the situation is, we ride it down, and that is it. But I think there is a level of it cannot define you. It's like a job can define you. I'm a sports presenter who all of a sudden stopped being a sports presenter, and he was broken by it.
Yeah.
The fact, because he saw himself as that's who he was, that's who the world saw him as, and that's who he was. And football, you leave clubs, you everything changes. The one sure thing, it's like a manager.
Yeah.
The day you appoint a manager, he's got a scarf above his head. He's probably getting sacked at some stage.
Yeah.
Unless you're Alex Ferguson, you're getting sacked at some stage. You're not going.
It's an incredible. It's the football world is incredible, but with managers, when they get the sack, they still get their big payout. Oh, well, it's at certain levels.
Certain levels, not in Scotland, but
at certain levels, you're going, you're absolutely rubbish there, and you're just getting millions. It's amazing.
But it's that seeing that if you don't let that define you, you can't just be defined by I did that. When I owned a nightclub, and everybody knew me as a guy in Chelsea who was gadding about with a nightclub and meeting models and cricketers and football, and they knew you as that. They knew you as that. You were not that. You were just that at that time.
Yeah.
You were that at that time. And therefore, if you no longer had the nightclub, it didn't mean you were you'd failed at that or you'd succeeded at that. You just had moved into the next phase and the next phase. I've never planned anything. The river, I've kind of followed the river, as it's going along. And so that, and I'm relating it directly to having the condition. It doesn't define me because no more than anything else defines me. What defines you is your friends, people you love, people that love you, and how you live your life. And if you're loyal, and loyalty is the biggest thing to me.
Yeah.
But similarly, you work in a different industry, and sometimes loyalty doesn't stand for anything. So I think the definition, and I think it's a Scottish thing, as a man, maybe also specifically somebody of a certain age, that you don't want to be defined by that, and not don't want that, you can't be, or else you've failed you're failing yourself, I think, if you're defined by it.
Yeah.
And I see it in terms like that. That sounds harsh, probably, and you'll be saying, "No, you shouldn't do that," because everyone's different. But speaking about me, I'm like, I'm not having this.
Yeah, well, I think that that it's important that anybody on that journey does what works for them. I think we live in an age, and you know this more than anybody, where every Andy Warhol says everybody will be famous for 15 minutes, but he was vastly underestimated. With the technology these days, so everybody's got a platform, which is not necessarily a good thing. But you've got so many people that have got that platform that see themselves as advocates. Sometimes there's value in it. Sometimes it's pretty dangerous. I think we see it all the time. But I think one of the main things is that there's people saying, "Oh, you must do this, you must do that." That works for you. Mm-hmm. Because that works for you doesn't mean it works for me. It doesn't it works for such and such. And it's really important that for people to try and separate that, because I think when you're going through a bad time, everybody's looking for a solution. Everybody's looking for, let's face it, this, the inflammatory bowel disease can put people both physically and mentally, absolutely mentally, in depths of despair. So when they're seeing somebody preaching to them, or maybe they've got a solution that works for them, or a magic tea or whatever it is, they're like, well, right, okay, I'm going to go for that. But just get the thing that works for you. Start think about what works for you. If you've got a routine, if there's stuff that you eat, if there's an activity, don't be isolated, be social. You're clearly a super social guy. And I think sometimes it's quite dangerous, but what you said is, I think a lesson for anybody is that you're doing what works for you. And I think that's, anybody that comes on here that's got a degree of good quality management of themselves.
One of your previous guests, a lady, and she talked about, she needed to be here. She was talking about potentially her getting a bag, and she needed to be here, and she was thinking, I've got to look after my dad, and I've got to look after my mum, and I've got to, and as I say, I would have faced anything. And there's things, even you and I have had a couple of short conversations, relatively speaking, and it's not that I don't listen to someone, because I that goes in there, and then I'm thinking, right, I might revisit what he's just said there, because that's makes sense to me, and it's quite important. But we went on, or I went on. I'm saying we, it's not about the club then. Went on at Dundee. We won the league. And then you move to another club because I'd got a call from Anne Budge, who just bought Hearts at the time, and said, she didn't have a lot of experience, she didn't have any experience around the football club. Could I join Hearts? And I lived in the West End of Edinburgh, and I went to meet Anne. What I had or had been previously diagnosed was totally irrelevant to me. I'm like, I'm just living life. I am. Yeah, totally. That is, it wasn't like I was going to have a conversation with her about it. It was no one's business. That's just somewhere in the background. And we go on with Hearts, and we win the league, and we have amazing experiences in Europe, and we're building a new stadium. And then I get hit with it in a few years, at 2017. Get hit with it. When you say hit with a big flare? With a flare. And it was, and I was and without going into detail, I was at the stadium, and I need to get to the doctor very quickly here. And John Robertson, who legendary Hearts player and Scotland player, and John worked. I worked with John at Hearts, and he's great, and he was a friend as well. And he said he took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, right, have a seat outside. And then she came out and she said, you need to go straight to the hospital. They're expecting you. And I said to John, well, you can't take me in. Because I was known as Chief Operating Officer at Hearts. everybody, a lot of people knew you.
Of course.
If you're in football, then a lot of people know you.
Yeah, especially in...
It was a high-profile job, and a lot of people knew you. And so I would say to John, you can't take me, because everybody knew John Robertson. Fans knew John Robertson. So I was like, you can't take me in, because they'll see people will see it's me. I don't want anyone to know about this. This is no one's business. Again, this comes on to the condition, because it's an embarrassing condition, or it can be embarrassing.
Absolutely.
And I said to John, you can't take me. And when I got there, they'd put me in a chair. They'd said, right, we'll put you in a chair, we'll come and get you. And I said, John, you need to pee off, right? Because I can't have you wheel me through the blooming hospital here, because it's John Robertson, he's a legend of Edinburgh.
Absolutely.
And people were getting pictures and selfies, and I said, you can't do it, you need to go. And he was being a friend and saying, I'll stay here with you.
I'm your
I
mate.
said, no, mate, go please, because I don't want anyone to notice me. And when I got taken, the nurse that came to see me said, can you fill in this form? Because you had to fill in a form before because I was getting admitted.
I thought when you did that there, when you said the nurse at CE asked for his autograph.
Can you get me, John? Well, she said, fill in this form, because they were basically admitting me in bed. Right, so it wasn't like you go to reception at a hospital.
Of course.
So I was in bed already, and they were saying, right. And she says, what's your job? And all I put was CEO, because I didn't want to say COO. I didn't want to say Chief Operating Officer Heart Midlothian Football Club. So I just put COO. And she says to me, what business is it? And I said, what's that got to do with anything? And I was kind of really defensive about it, because I'm like, what? Why do you need to know? I'm not well. You take me in, whether I'm CEO of a plumbing company or a football club. In my head, it doesn't matter. So I'm trying to protect myself and say, I said, what does it matter? And I was looking at her name tag, right? And I'm looking at her name tag, and I'm thinking, can it be? And she said to me, Scott, she says, do you work at Hearts? Right? And I went, And she said, I'm Jason Holt's stepmom, who was just sold to Rangers. Right? She said, I'm Jason Holt's stepmom. I knew I've spoken to you, I've met you, been in your company a few times. And I said, well, look, the reason I don't want anybody to know I'm here. And she said to me, we were playing Rangers on Saturday. She said, and Jason had signed, we'd sold Jason. And she said, are you going on Saturday?
Well, it depends what happens here.
I'm lying in the bed. I'm like, well, I don't know. I said, I don't know where I'm going on Saturday. I said, I don't know. April or Avril? Can't remember. But I saw her name Holt, and I was thinking, I only know one Holt.
I know it's not a particularly common name, is it?
Yeah. So it's that, but that led to me not being able to do the job. I had to leave Hearts. It massively impacted on me at that time.
Yeah.
And I had to leave, and I didn't want it coming out that why. And I sat with Anne Budge, and she said, "Look, we've got a medical."
Can I ask you a question? Because I think your stance on it then is very interesting. And would you deal with it the same way now?
I don't know.
No,
I don't know. I think at the time, you're dealing with things just right in front of you.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. I might deal with it differently, because I didn't.
Well, I think the fact that you're on here means you're open about it.
Yes,
you know.
I'm much more open about it now. I wanted to keep it quiet. As I say, I thought I was an alpha male.
Yeah.
I thought I had an image, and
the reason why I'm asking anybody we speak to who's and believe me, you're absolutely not in a minority with how you've dealt with that and trying to not publicise it you would be publicising it with the high profile nature of your job, but anybody that we speak to that's kind of, don't know what the secretive is the right word, but they keep it to themselves. You know, they're keeping it a private matter. I would say that 99% of them, when they do start to speak about it, it's like a massive weight off their shoulders, massive, and it's almost like they have a freedom. Now that's not speaking for everybody; it's just the people that we've spoken to, and and the nature of that is that it helps them develop as an individual. It's also helped a lot of them. It's opened the door to support other people. We've definitely seen that, and it's less of a stress. It's another stress.
I must be in the 1%, because I didn't think that. And I remember walking around the pitch with Craig Levine, who was director of football, and I know Craig and I had travelled all over Scotland, all over Europe together, and he would tell me Dan Fletcher stories, like when he had no idea what I had, and he would say to me, we'd be talking about somebody, say, "Oh, well, this happened with Darren," and I won't tell those stories. And I'd be going, "Oh my God, that's incredible."
So he's saying about Darren's UC and the challenges,
but never, he had no idea about me.
Yeah.
But then the day when I was saying, "This is what's going to happen," and I'm going to have to, I can't do this. I can't, because I need to get this under control again. Yeah. And then once I'm under control, then I can go again and do whatever I want to do. And I walked around the pitch. It was a sunny day, and it was just the two of us walking around the pitch in Tynecastle. And he said to me, "F's sake, mate, how did you know tell me?"
Yeah.
I said, "I don't want to tell you." It's not, why would I tell you that? You could have told me. I said, "I don't want to tell you." Wow. And he went, that time I was talking about Dan Fletcher, we were coming back from Aberdeen or something. And I remember we were just before the Forth Road Bridge. And he said, "How did you know say then?" I said, "Because I didn't want to tell you. Didn't want to tell you. It was for me to deal with, not for you to deal with." And I was not in that. I said, I haven't spoken to anyone about it because I don't want to speak to anyone about it. Now, would you go back and maybe, but I'm not sure.
Who did you speak to about it? Because I think, they're all get to the risk of using a well-worn cliche, problem shared and all that kind of thing, and support network, something we speak about here all the time is finding your tribe. Everybody needs a support network. Now, who are you speaking to about this?
My wife, maybe my parents. I don't want to put it on my parents. They've got enough to worry about. So I don't want to put it on them. So my wife, occasionally my brother, but my brother, as I say, is very Dundonian and he's very brusque. So I don't get me, I love him to bits, but he would go kind of just man up,
But you look all right.
He wouldn't. You're fine. You'll be fine. Whatever you do, you'll be fine. Just get that. Just get a bag. It'll be fine. Just get a bag. Then that's sorted. He would talk about it like that. Just go, if you do that, then that's fine.
Very black and white.
Yeah, and I'm going, no, that's not happening. Right, that's not happening, Neil. Yeah. It's not happening. And so, so you just dealt with it within your own very small circle. And I took 6 months out and I lived in George Street in Edinburgh. And we were one of only 9 residents in George Street. If you know George Street, it's just shops and,
Very nice.
Very nice, yeah. And I had a wee dog, I had a wee Westie called Cooper. And him and I...
You're getting a game away here, Scott.
And him and I went just a walk every day, around the old town and the new town. And that took the time. At that time, Professor Ho was dealing with me. He was
Good
my
friend
first.
Of ours.
Yeah, he was amazing. And he'd kind of clocked, and I said, "Look, I've had to leave my job because of this." And I never, and he didn't say, "Yeah, I know," but he said, "Yeah, we need to get you so you don't get as bad as Darren was." So he immediately used Darren Fletcher as a. So he knew I was in without me saying anything. He'd obviously, whatever, seen me, knew me, or somebody had said, and said, "We need to get to the stage where it's not that bad." And I said, "Yeah, I don't want..."
It was a very gozer way of dealing with things, I have to say. Very good.
Aye. And he was so calm.
He's beautifully subtle.
Yeah, so calm and so, I believed, if he said anything to me, I believed him. Because he just has that something that you believe him. and I was happy that he was dealing with it, and I took a few months, and so me and the dog would just. And I started an Instagram account for the dog because in Edinburgh, because he was a Westie, everybody was stopping and getting a photograph with him because Japanese.
Yeah, of course.
Because going about the new town or the old town, particularly the old town, because the tourists were like, oh my God, Americans have seen a Westie. And we ended up with like 12,500 followers. The dog had 12,500 followers. Just the dog, it wasn't my account. It's called the Edinburgh Westie.
Did you sell advertising on that, Scott?
I should have done. I should have done because Barber and everything used them and didn't give me a penny for it.
Oh.
Barber used them, National Trust used them, and I never once. And my wife said to me, I can't believe you of all people didn't get a.
No, Scott, I've not known you very long. There's certain character traits come through that are quite admirable, and this is no you.
No.
That was a massive opportunity.
It was a massive opportunity. And as I say, Barber used them. And I bought a Barber bed for him and put a picture of him in his Barber bed. And they used in a campaign. Right? So
really?
An Instagram. About him, because he was like, picture perfect. I'll send you the picture of him. And my wife had said, our friend was a lawyer. And we said to her, can they do that? Can they use? And they said, well, you put it on Instagram.
Freebie.
You published it already. You published it. So you didn't trademark it or copyright it. So he was in a Barber campaign. National Trust for Scotland used them, but I was happy for them. They asked, they said, we love the pictures. Could we use them? And I'm like, of course you can. But we ended up, he was massively important because you're in the bathroom for long periods of time, and so was he. He never left your side, and I knew where all the bathrooms were in Edinburgh, so I knew every. Of course. And I knew where dogs were allowed. So there was knowing where the bathrooms were and knowing where the bathrooms where dogs were allowed was a thing as well. So because, as I say, he was joined at the hip with me for that whole period. And then we said, right, we'll start our own business to do almost live podcast, but live theatre shows, live sporting audience with events, theatre events with sports personalities, because I had that network.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of that, and I couldn't retire, so I needed to do something. So that
offers you a degree of flexibility,
and that gave you that. Yeah. That gave you the flexibility to. Because you were deciding if there was a meeting or if there was not a meeting or if there was something happening or something not happening. It was you, and you could control things. So we started the Longest 40 production company. And
where does the name come from, Scott?
Well, everyone thought it was kind of NFL because I'm a big American football fan and I'm a fanatic Dallas Cowboys fan, and everyone thought it was the Longest 40 was 40 yards or something, but it was it's the M8. So because Edinburgh's at one end and Glasgow's at the other end, it's 40 miles, and it's the longest 40 miles in the world because it's two different planets, it's two different universes. Is it? Because it's my wife's Rhodesian, she's African, but she sounds like a Ouija now. And I'm an East Coaster, she's a West Coaster, and it's two different planets. I think Edinburgh and Glasgow is two different planets, and we would have a night out in Glasgow, and then we get the train back to Edinburgh, and we'd come out at Waverley out underneath the Scot Monument, and I'd go and back to civilization, and she'd be raging about it.
They say that Edinburgh got the looks and Glasgow got the personality.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
I think it's true.
But. No, so they came from the longest 40, longest
right. Do you know something?
Longest 40 miles in the world.
I have always, when I was aware of the company, I always wondered where the name came from. So thank you.
The logo is the Govan crane in the Scot Monument. So the logo kind of, no one ever thinks, why is there a crane in the Scot Monument? But that's what it was. We just because we were doing events all over the UK.
So that change in profession, getting away from the huge pressures at that level of football. Would you say that that's had a positive effect health-wise?
It did. It did and it didn't, because you have your own pressures, you have your own thing, your own business. All of a sudden, no one's paying you. You've got to make the money.
Yeah.
So that has its own pressures. I went back into football for supposedly 6 weeks, which became 6 years at Inverness. And I went back there, and I never had a day sick in 6 years. So I was only doing that for a friend who was the vice chairman, who said to me, "Look, can you sort it out?" Which was a roller coaster, because they had no owner. The club didn't have any owner. I've always gone into clubs that have had problems. So Spurs and Rangers aside, when it came back to Dundee had been in administration twice. How can you fix it? Needed 100 grand in 6 weeks, or else it was going under. We fixed it. Won the league, got the new owners, got promoted. Yeah. Hearts, the same, just come out of administration. Tynecastle was empty. There was just empty desks because the administrators paid everybody off. So you go in there, how can you fix it? Fixed it. Inverness was like an administration. It never had an owner. It was losing half a million, 800,000 every year. So it's spinning plates. Yeah. How do you do that? And we ended up in the Scottish Cup final, against Celtic a couple of years ago. And then when the chairman said he was leaving, I said I was leaving. But I never had a day's illness at Inverness in 6 years. I never had. You were sticking to your regime.
Yeah.
How you eat, how you what you don't drink, what you do drink, and so we have other business interests, and we're involved with different people in London and have been in the Far East, and now we have a production company in the Scottish Podcast Awards, which we're working on just now, and it just has different challenges in it, and but I'm on completely different regime now. I'm on biologics, which were miraculous. I would say were absolutely miraculous. I went
on the MABs.
I went on to infliximab, and within 48 hours, 72 hours, it was a miracle. It was like nothing. Like there's life again. There is nothing wrong with you now. I've recently changed for that to another biologic, which begins with a V. And I said I would remember it. I can't. Ven something mab.
It's just a mab.
It's a mab. It's a biologic. Yeah. So, it doesn't hold me. It's called the invisible disease for a reason, because sometimes you might look ill, but that's probably because you're in Dundee and you look ill, or I've had a rough night, or I've had a few beers or something. I very rarely drink now. Very, very, very rarely drink. And because if I do, I used to like a good kick at the ball regularly, and my lifestyle was that as well.
Yeah, of course. It's a very, very sociable career, clearly.
Aye, but now I don't. Because I know it might have, it might knock me for 2-3 days. It doesn't make me ill, but it'll knock me for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, a few people that I know that they kind of shape it around their bank account. If they got a bit of credit, they can get away with it. Or if they don't want to go too far into their overdraft. Yeah, that's how they relate their drinking.
Well, IBD. It's funny because now when you get asked, occasionally you get asked. If you're getting checked up or something and people say, "What do you drink?" And you always feel like you're a giant fibber. So hardly anything, But it's now hardly anything. Before, when I used to drink loads, I used to say hardly anything. Yeah. And now when I'm no fibbing, I still feel like I'm fibbing because I'm saying...
Because you've got previous.
I haven't had anything for 3 weeks. And they're kind of looking at it going, right. I'm like, no, really? Whereas before I was lying through my teeth and going, I was on it for the last week.
Yeah.
But with events and with, it's sociable.
Yeah, because a lot of the time you'll be hosting or entertaining and things like that.
With the nightclub, you were hosting a party every night. And that's not conducive to healthy living.
Yeah, no matter who you are.
No. And we used to do shots, trade secrets, like everyone, tequila shots. And I thought tequila was poison. It was certainly poison to me, and I thought it was horrible in any case. I never like it. I don't understand anybody who has a drink and goes, oh, that's terrible. And then they go, right, another one. I just don't understand that. But I would get shots of water. So my staff, the girls, would come with 12 shots of tequila for the company, and she'd go, that one's yours. And mine was just water. And I would pretend, I'd go, oh, dreadful. But I was just drinking water.
You've run for the watching this guy.
Loads of times. So, but I think
that's an old gaffer's trick, isn't it? It's just, because everybody wants to buy the owner or the gaffer a pint and all that kind of stuff. And it's the same one all day.
And I wanted them to. I wanted everybody to buy champagne and
of course you did.
Everyone, because I needed them to spend stupid money in the club. But you didn't, as yourself, you didn't. It was difficult. Although sometimes, you couldn't help it. There was certain footballers and cricketers that you had to just join in.
Kick the ball away.
Yeah.
What if you could give? What would you tell? If you when go back to the journey, go back at your time. What happened when you were at Hearts? Would you change the way you dealt with it in any way? Would you give it? How would you advise yourself?
I would have gone to look to get treatment rather than trying to manage it.
Yeah,
I would have gone to try and get something rather than because I think you find you're managing it for years.
And it's kind of getting back to that level of normality, getting a little bit less.
But my normality was my normality, but I think if I'm being honest, just on that to that question, would you do something different? I think you would try and get a little bit of treatment, because then you wouldn't have had to manage it the way you managed it.
Yeah.
Because no one would have known. As I say, I was, have been throughout my career. There's, if we say, right, we're going out till 5 o'clock at night, then we're out till 5 o'clock at night. And if we're going to Germany, or we're going to Barcelona, or we're going to London, or we're going, you would just find a way of managing it. If I was going where Spurs would need me to go from London to Birmingham with Teddy Sheringham to go to some event, can you just manage Teddy or Jamie Redknapp or Les Ferdinand or Robbie Keane or some superstar, right, go with them. And I would think, right, just make sure I've got enough for this and I've done that and know where this is, just in case there's a scenario. So I would always be planning a little bit of something.
Yeah.
Limousine's going to pick you up at your house, then you'll pick up Teddy, and then you'll head there and you can stay the night or not stay the night. There's a room there for you. All these things you managed. You didn't, and you might have gone a different route and said, right, I might have just moved on. Well, there probably wasn't a biologics then, but I might have gone and said, what is that? Because I found myself asking questions. Yeah. I was supposed to be in Seville last year for the Spurs. I'm a massive Spurs fan. I was supposed to be in Seville for the final against Manchester United last year, and everything was sorted, my flights and everything. And I was in hospital the day of the match, and I shouldn't have missed that. I should have managed that better. I should have been there when we won the UEFA.
Struggling this year.
I don't want to talk about it. But I was in hospital and I was sitting with a specialist who was saying, we can do this, and at that time I was thinking I should have bloody asked about this maybe before, and I'd be in Seville right now. I was getting text messages saying, you can now check into your flight, and I'm thinking I should be there. Yeah. And I was texting, the boys were texting me pictures from the match after the game, and I'm sitting in Raigmore Hospital with Spurs cockerel in my hat and like that, thinking I should be there. So there are things where you think I could have done that.
So I think you probably touched on something that's quite common, and that a lot of our guys that are living with the condition leave it a little late to make an action. In the back of their mind, they probably know, but they're saying, I'll be fine, and they leave it a little bit late, and then it's more difficult to deal with. One of your story that really I felt was quite powerful that you spoke about earlier is when you were talking with Craig Levine when you were walking around the pitch, and he said, why did you not tell me? I think that's quite powerful in the fact that, would you have changed how you dealt with that in relation to how you shared that with your friends? Would you change that now if you were to go back?
I might do, but I'm really, honestly, I'm like, and it was powerful because Craig, if I'm talking about my brother being quite a dour Dundonian, Craig is as brutal a fifer as you'll ever meet, right? And again, I have massive respect for him and affection for him. At the time we worked together for a few years, and we built the club up because Anne had taken it from nothing, and we built it up to league winners and second, third in the league, Premier League, and so he was pretty brutal. And he'd be quite brutal in relation to dealing with players. He'd been in the game as a player and as a manager and as a director of football and everything. And so he had that kind of, well, that has to happen. But he had that Fife edge to him. And I have a thing with Dundonians and Fifers, I'd rather be a lifer than a Fifer, all that kind of stuff. But Craig had that before. It's true. Because they've all got webbed feet and 6 toes, and all that kind of. But we had that thing, and it was powerful because it was emotional, because both of us were emotional. And I remember, and we hugged one another, which we wouldn't, apart from maybe the day we won the league or beating the Hibs or something like that. It
was proper emotional.
It was a manly hug in that. And that had not happened.
Yeah, because there's a massive level of vulnerability there for you as well.
Huge.
And knowing the type of person that you are.
Aye. And so in relation to that, you might have, you may have done that. And
I mean, because to me, that if you don't mind me saying, the thing that struck me most, well, there was lots of things that struck me in that story, was that you're working really closely with this guy. You're building up the club. There's a certain bond that comes with that. Mm-hmm. But he's also shared the stories with Darren, and you're listening to that, knowing what you know. That creates something,
I not saying anything, and he was like that. If you'd have told me, could I have helped? He was saying that, and I'm not a hugger. I'm shake hands with my dad when I see him. I don't hug my dad, and again, a northeast Scotland thing maybe, but in football, it's not really. It's not a tactile thing, and it's not letting the guard down. But Paul Gascoigne became, close to and friends with, and after Paul left, and I would still be friends, and Paul would always hug you, and he was about the only person I didn't mind, because he was, Paul has, Paul's demons have demons, most. And the most generous person you've ever met in your life, and the most vulnerable person, and has a dark side sometimes as well, for all the reasons that people might know or might not know. And he would hug you. So I don't think it's just not a thing. I think that comes back to how you deal with things as well. I don't know, because I'm, I don't even like, I hate if someone says to me, suggest a massage. I'm like, nobody's touching me. I'll shake hands with you. That's it. What if we, that is it.
That's the worst massage in the world.
Aye. Yeah. Say hello. Right, leave me alone. Don't touch me.
So, but I mean, what can I get?
That's the person that I'm at. That I'm not that.
Yeah.
Where I'm going and discussing it. I did a feature with the Times when I went to Inverness because I said to everyone, I'm not going back into football. I've no desire to go back into football. I'd worked for Rangers, Dundee, my hometown team, Hearts and Spurs. Love Spurs. Rangers, Dundee and Hearts. There was no one else I want to work with in Scotland. That's the three great clubs, fantastic clubs that I had affinity with in some way, shape or form. And I did a feature for the Times, which I think I sent you where I said this, and that was me going right there. In case anyone asks, that's because I was really brutally honest in it. Yeah, I was really brutally honest in it because I was saying these terrible things happened to me when I had this, and it was very difficult. So you were, you were gadding about the new town or the old town with the wee Westie, and everyone thinking, oh, what a fabulous life, and you were going, aye, but I'm over here. There's something else that you're managing. So I think myself, not necessarily, it might be perfectly atypical way to deal with it if you've got high profile positions and doing stuff. And but I live very healthily, as I say. I make everything fresh. I watch what I eat. I'm very careful all the time now to live a healthy life. One
of the other things you kind of touched on, I think it's quite interesting. It's definitely, and it's something that keeps coming up, and it's something that's so important. You never told your employers at the time with your health, with your condition, and I totally get that. Would you still do the same thing now, or what would your advice to be? Because I was speaking to somebody just yesterday, and they were in the entertainment world, and they shared they were going through a pretty bad time with their Crohn's, and within that there was zero care. They just needed you to be on set and do your thing. I'll not say who it is because it would be unfair. But they shared that with one of the makeup artists, and they got the care there, and the advice, and then from that they then told their agent, look, and the agent went, don't tell anybody, you're not getting any jobs. Now, I think that's systematic in society, whether it's an IBD that you've got or any other condition that you wouldn't say because people would feel that it would hinder their career progress. Is that what's going through your mind by no saying that, or is it it's nobody else's business? Would that have benefited you in any way, shape, or form by sharing that at the time, or I mean, there's not a right or a wrong answer in any of it, but it's a real challenge for people.
I'm not sure. Some people might think you should be telling everybody everything. Some people might think that, and that would be a valid position. I've been very successful in lots of things I've done. Like everyone, you've made mistakes, but I've been very successful in sport, cup finals and trophies and all sorts of different things, and successful in massive commercial deals, and successful in bringing in owners to football clubs, or by saying to someone, but also I have this. Does that diminish that, or does that take away the definition of you're successful in what you do, or you're very driven in what you do? We got Spotify recently for the Scottish Podcast Awards. Spotify, I think, is second, maybe. I think it's bigger in UK than Apple, but one of the biggest digital companies in the world, of course. And I'm not sure if many others. My wife is massively important in getting that deal done. But would it, if I'd have said to them, you know, by the way, I have this, I own this company with my wife and my business partner, Mark, if you're getting involved with us, so it depends. Maybe if you're going for a job,
I think that's very different. I think from a job, a proper job. That doesn't mean you've not got a proper job. But if you're being employed by someone, I think that's when it comes in, because somebody's going to go in there, got to put food on the table. Should it be full disclosure? Some people don't say that, and is it almost like we're managing the employer's expectations. I've been fine for a few years, but just so you know, this is what I'm at.
I'm not. I think it would depend on the person.
Yeah,
as in the person you're talking to.
So before we finish up, Scott, we always do a quick fire. We do a quick fire round. And this has been brilliant, by the way.
Colour and stuff like that, no?
No. I think we've already established what that is anyway.
White for Tottenham, yeah. White for Tottenham, yeah.
Aye, of course. If you could give anybody any advice on their IBD journey, what would be your top 3 bits of advice?
I would read everything, but don't believe everything. Because everyone is so different, and I would do as I say and not as I do. I would confide in lots of people and get there, open yourself up to them. But I wouldn't do it myself. You're asking me what advice I give to others. It's a different thing.
Right, okay. Fair enough. I think your advice is great. Just to say, what is 3 things that piss you off about IBD?
Inconvenience, pain, and how it can damage your ego, your own awareness of yourself, how it could damage you. That's what pisses me off about it, is how it can damage you. Because I've had in the past years ago, I've had in Cooper was with me, I've had moments where I just I felt this was the lowest of the low you could possibly be, and that pissed me off. No end, because there was nothing I could do about it. So that helplessness, that when it was before I was on biologics, before I was having any and feeling great, that would have said that was one of the things, and not pissed me off. But actually, I lost my young cousin to ulcerative colitis, and walking out the crematorium at the most brutal moment, with people that I love all in pieces around me, seeing the UK Crohn's and colitis collection thing was a massive shock to the system, because you're like that. I've got, because you don't all of a sudden things linked to, as I say, that lightning bolt moment where you're like, that did that to her, and if I don't watch this, it's worse than pissed off. It's worse than pissed off. That pissed off isn't the word. It's worse than that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That moment.
Well, those moments. That's powerful. Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear that. And finally, this could be controversial. Who's going to win the league?
Which one?
Scottish Premiership.
I think Celtic will probably win the league. I'd like to see. It'd be amazing if Hearts won it.
Yeah.
And I think Rangers have done remarkably well to get to where they're at, considering how bad they were at the beginning. So I think that's what will happen.
I don't think you're a million miles away. And anybody that watches this will know that I take no pleasure in that at all. Scott, I have to say that has absolutely been one of my favourite podcasts. We've done nearly 30 now.
You say that to everyone, don't you?
I actually don't.
Says it to everybody.
Grant, I actually don't. No, that's what. Honestly, I thought it was fantastic. There's loads of incredible insight there. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll definitely get you back. I wish you every success with all your business endeavours that you've got on the go. More importantly, I wish you your health. Thanks for being on Gutsy. Take care. Cheers for that.
Thank you very much.